Welcome back, everybody. We're back from our quick little break, coming into season 2 of the Screaming Idiots show, and we'll reintroduce ourselves here for any new listeners we have. I'm Kyler.
I'm Preston.
And I'm Tyler.
And we have, for our first episode of season 2, a very special guest in studio with us, Shawn Stephenson, rhythm guitarist, frontman, whatever you want to call him, for Screaming Evidence. Shawn, what's up, man?
What's happening?
Glad to have you in. We've probably been bugging the shit out of you to come on the show for a while, so glad you were able to make it on. So you guys played a show here recently and wanted to, unfortunately, marital duties, wasn't able to make it. Hopefully the wife isn't listening and reams me for that when I get home. But
She's going to be after you.
Probably. So you guys said it went good, so I'm just curious, what were your thoughts on it and how do you feel it went? Did you feel like you sounded tight? What's your thoughts?
Tyler, I'll go with it.
Yeah, you're
I
nominated,
get to start
Tyler.
it. Okay. Wow, I didn't even get to choose. Like, we didn't play rock, paper, scissors or nothing. All right. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. That particular spot is interesting to the history of Screaming Evidence. It is a spot my dad has always played for years, and I grew up going out to my dad's band practices out there and stuff. And when we had gotten together with Scotty and Jason for, Screaming Evidence moving more into electric, we were getting ready for our first gig as a group. So we went out there to practice. Dad was like, hey, you're going to be playing at the Newport Music Hall. He's like, you guys have never played outside of a fucking basement. You guys should probably get an idea what it sounds like playing on a stage. Come out here and practice. Shawn, I think we got, 3 songs deep before dude came out and was like, turn that shit off!
No, that one we made it through. There's still videos on YouTube of that one. The one that you're talking about was, it was a legitimate show that we played there, and it was right before we went and played with OTEP at the Al Rosavilla.
Oh, yeah.
Was it the same
No,
guy?
I'm pretty sure he had some
think it was
issue
the
that first time we played, but I think you're
Yeah,
right.
it
We
might
got
have been.
through several songs.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a really cool spot to play. The guy who owns the property, just very closed-minded to music. Fortunately, he was in bed by the time we got to play last night. And from there, we had a pretty decent crowd, pretty great response from the people that were there. Other bands that hadn't heard us before was giving us compliments. So, yeah, I'd say it was pretty good. I mean, it sounded pretty tight on stage. I had my fair share of mistakes, but I was also trying to play without my pinky. So that was cool. Some of those songs, I realized I use my pinky a lot.
Yeah. Why were you trying to play without your pinky?
Because I about took half of it off, and yeah, so that's been a little sore,
Okay.
little tender.
Gotcha.
So particularly thanatophobia, I have a part where I slide with my pinky, and that about ripped the fucker off.
She's grading your pinky there.
Yeah, it was rough.
Shawn, what'd you think, man?
It was all right. It was what you would expect from something like that, I think.
Sure.
Although a lot of our people, a lot of familiar faces came out, I was thankful for, especially because of what it was for. I didn't know the guy personally. We wrote a bill with him once, but we played the opposite day of them. But it's always tough for family and friends to have a loss like that. So
Yep.
it's nice to have community come around something like that.
Yeah, it was just to remind the listeners what it was. It was a benefit concert, Banded for Brothers.
Yep. Yep.
Say that correctly? Yeah, for the family of a musician who lost his life. So yeah, it was definitely for a good cause. There was how many bands? 4?
5 total that
5?
played. Yep.
Okay, Preston,
Yep.
what were your thoughts on it?
compared to the last gig, it's amazing what happens when you have time to set up and get squared away.
Sound check properly. Were you able to play the full set this time?
Played the full set.
Nice.
I think we played for an hour.
We had time to spare, man. We could have kept going as long as we wanted.
Yep.
That was one of those like backyard shows where it's like, just
keep
feel it out, bro.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
No, it was good. On stage, it sounded pretty tight. Scotty slowed his tempos down, so shout out to Scotty.
Poor Scotty.
But no, I've heard a couple videos that I was sent, and they sounded pretty good, but especially on stage, sounded pretty tight. Felt good to rock out like that, even though my neck's sore now.
Hell yeah.
I like those moments in certain shows when, I don't know, after the first 3 or 4 songs, you can feel everybody's eyes get on you. That's kind of what that was there towards halfway through the set. Felt good.
Yeah, I've been to a couple shows of your guys' that, I mean, we talked about, I believe with the episode with Ryan, we talked about the show at Jay's that, in a building, in a big metal barn with not great sound, limited sound guy, all that. That was a hell of a show that y'all put on. And it, like you said, it was, I mean, you open with Attention Freak, and it's an attention getter, no pun intended, but it's
whether good or bad for some.
Well, for sure, but you start getting a song or two in, and people are like, oh fuck, I'm vibing to this shit. So yeah, you guys tend to have that effect on your fans. Is the next show Barnyard?
No, we have
got another one.
We have a show set up at a bike retailer, like motorcycle retailer.
Oh, yeah.
Buckeye Motorsports in Columbus.
They
That's
have a little. They have a little event that they do, like a tattoo and bike show kind of thing. We played it last year as a battle of the bands kind of thing.
Oh,
and
is that?
ended up
There's
winning.
a trophy sitting over here for that. Yeah, you guys won that competition.
And
we should have got that on camera.
This year, she just asked if we wanted to come play. I was like, sure, we'll come do it.
Hell yeah!
So.
Yeah, I'm still shocked at the amount of money she handed over after that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We had just finished like seconds after.
And it was one of the weirdest shows I've ever played with the band. Like the vibe, it just felt as if we were kind of background music, but you would see eyes peeking or watching there for a bit. And honestly, I don't know that our performance was that great, but somehow we won the show or won the battle. And
yeah, and to put into perspective, the most we've ever gotten paid for a show before was Jay's, and it was like $400.
Yeah.
And she handed me a wad of 20s, and I was like, what? So I just start counting it, and I get past the 400, and I'm like, I still got a lot of 20s to go. And it ended up being like $1,000. I was like, my God, this feels awesome.
So it would be, I mean, when you think about it, I guess it would be weird to play a show where the music isn't the main attraction.
Yeah.
The tattoo show or the bike show is, so you're kind of off to the side. So if you're able to still capture some eyes and some ears when you're not the quote unquote main attraction there, I think that goes to show, okay, we're doing something right here. We're putting on a good live performance and making people that maybe aren't here for the music here for the music.
It seemed like everyone there hated it.
Yeah, it was the weirdest feeling I've ever gotten from
And
a
I
show.
think one of the most metal things I ever heard was Shawn looking at me like, I don't think they like that very much. Let's give them some more. And we just played an even heavier song after that. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. I love that. So when's that show?
July.
Why am I thinking the 29th?
I think that sounds about right.
So end of July, basically. And then you have the Barnyard. And is that August 15th? Am I saying that right?
That'll actually be September 30th this year. They pushed it back a month.
What's the reasoning for that?
Main reason to get Brian, the main sound guy who we had year one of Barnyard Bash, a better chance of being there.
Gotcha.
Which is a big part of that show.
Okay. I guess that would be worth it then.
Yeah, I mean, he does sound for high state football, Taylor Swift. I mean, big.
And you guys are working on a couple new songs too, so that give you some more time to get shit dialed in and refined and maybe have a couple of those new jams to play live too, which would be awesome. So I know I'm looking forward to Barnyard. That's first I've heard that it's in September. So, but that's fine. I'll be there regardless. So it'll be a good time. So
should be a little bit cooler.
Yeah, last year was it last year that was?
Both years it was hot, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, big time sweat rolling off old Skittles over here.
Yeah, I had to take my shirt off. Like, it wasn't even so much that it was so hot I had to take my shirt off. My shirt had been soaked with sweat, and I also kind of needed something to, like, wipe the sweat out of my eyes, because,
You couldn't
like,
see.
my eyes were on fire.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So,
Good
Well,
thing I
good.
don't need to see much.
couple good shows coming up for you guys. So, Sean, what we've kind of done with every guest, and it's always been super interesting for us, and I know, especially these two sitting here know a lot about your musical background, but, the listeners, they really like hearing the story of the musicians that we bring on, of, how they got into music, what were their original influences, and, what made them decide, yeah, I want to play music. So, take us back a little bit, if you will, to, when you really first started falling in love with music, and what it was, what band, what exactly was that aha moment of, man, I love this, and this is what I want to do.
Well, Kyler of TikTok fame. uh,
I'm excited to hear this because I don't know that I've ever heard this in-depth journey of yours.
well, I listen to all kinds of things. Not really fixated on anything at first, I guess. Like, I remember my mother jamming a Matchbox 20, cleaning the house and
Hell
shit.
yes.
Still have that album too.
Yes.
That first album was
Love
gangster.
Matchbox.
Undefeated.
But getting into school, hip hop was real big, and rap. The last hip hop song I really liked was Juvenile's "Slow Motion."
There you go.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
And then my aunt took me to a rock show. She was living in Indiana at the time, and it was Evanescence was the headliner. Seether played before them. 3 Days Grace played before them,
Okay.
and then Breaking Benjamin opened for them.
Wow.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it.
That's crazy.
That's a hell of a
And,
bill, but you wouldn't expect Breaking Benjamin to be opening for anybody.
No, Breaking Benjamin or 3 Days Grace really
yeah,
were.
Yeah,
at the
for
time.
sure.
Yeah.
But after that, they sent me back home with a burnt CD. It had Swampy Soul on it. It had oh fuck. Well, that's really the only band I really remember.
That's
on
the one
there.
that-
That's the one that
Yep.
got me.
They got you.
And I got I think I have every single album they've ever put out, even their EPs. So there was that. It was the concert is when it kind of flipped the script there. And then not too long after that, we'd skate up and down Broadway Street, and there was a band, and the only reason I knew there was a band was because the music was fucking loud as shit. And I would skate up and down trying to find a way to get in the house. Like, let me
Let
in.
me in.
Yeah.
I
The
remember,
house is rocking.
It's the
Yeah.
fucking Eric Andre meme. Let me in.
I remember selling like candy bars or some shit for the school, and they weren't playing at the time, but I thought, man, this could be my way, you know?
This is my end.
Yeah.
Let me get. Hey, buy some of my candy and let me rock
This
out.
caramel's the best
Please.
shit you'll ever have.
I did sell them candy bars, but that wasn't my end. The lady that the rhythm guitarist and singer for the band was dating at the time, she had, I think, it was her cousin. It's Steve Beverly.
Okay.
He came out and he was skating and shit too, and he was my end from there. The band was far and few between. Good bunch of guys. They were a punk group, local punk group, and I started dabbling with guitar from there. And then around the same time, my dad and my uncle were, the one had some experience and quit playing, and the other one, my dad, he just started playing, and we kind of played together, learned together rather.
That's
And,
cool.
Took off from there, man.
So did you? I think I recall Tyler saying that you had started out primarily on acoustic. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was all we had. I didn't have an electric guitar for years. Matter of fact, I think he and I both got an electric at the same time from Poplin. You may have had an electric before me. My first
I
electric
did. I just
bought
never.
from Poplin.
I never really played it much.
Right, didn't have a
It was
reason
the
to.
Ibanez over here.
Oh yeah.
It's always unique to hear this side of it, and I'll let you expand on it because me and him, we didn't give a fuck about an acoustic guitar.
No.
This is the last thing we
were
cared
the
about.
opposite, yeah.
It was we want to play Metallica riffs until we
wanted
can't play anymore.
So I mean, when we were 12, 13, 14 years old, it was Metallica, and that was it. We wanted to play Metallica riffs. We wanted to be Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield, and we did not give a shit about an acoustic. And for years, I've always wondered if that like set me back or set him back as a guitarist, but
Right.
I don't think it did. It was just a different way of learning to play the instrument. And him and I never had lessons, never had. We just taught each other how to play, basically, kind of like you and Tyler did, just in a different style.
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear it from the acoustic perspective.
Mhm.
You talk about Smile Empty Soul. Was that kind of one of your, did you start just learning to play Smile Empty Soul songs, for example, and that's kind of where you went with teaching yourself how to play guitar, or did you have any outside lessons? I think, did you say your uncle?
Yeah, no, he taught me a finger warm up, right?
Yeah.
Little things that they dabble in, and the gig with when my dad and I were learning, we would kind of pick songs. We would learn one of mine, learn one of his, learn one of mine, and then probably not too long after that, he kind of slowed down because he's working, he's doing third shift and shit, working all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept going. I'd met T. Scott, I don't know, a little while before I'd found out that he messed with guitar. Actually, I knew that he was he did percussion in band or something. And the very first video that we made was of him on a drum set and a bunch of us fucking kids playing guitar that had no idea what the fuck we were doing.
Standard, bro.
Yeah.
Standard.
That
That's
was the
what
name.
that was the name of the band.
I remember your dad telling me, "Boy, you gotta sing in that microphone. You can't just speak in it. You gotta project." All right.
My dad was our coach.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Shout out Big Ed for the musical coaching. Yeah, and with you being a vocalist, I guess, like, when did you kind of realize, oh fuck, I can sing?
I stood.
That's bold,
Yeah,
sir.
that is a bold statement.
Well, very similar to Tyler, like switching to bass out of necessity for the band. Wasn't that kind of the same thing that you did for Screaming Evidence, where it was like, well, I'll sing if I got to.
I
No,
don't
because
think so.
when Shawn and I had kind of known each other for about a year and hung out a few times before we found out that each of us played music. And when I came over to hang out with him, I had only ever thought about playing guitar, but he was singing and playing
Okay.
then, and that was 2009. And my question, I don't think I've ever really asked this of you,
Oh boy.
like, one, what made you want to start singing? Because I know me, like, I had no intention of doing it until you kept calling me a bitch, saying, sing this.
Yeah, I remember your first song you wrote.
And
I'm down
then,
with it, bro.
don't do it to me.
You know what it is.
I know what it is.
Tear.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
There we go.
Look, and then, so, like, what made you want to start singing? And then, when did you decide to start writing?
To learn how to play the guitar for both. So the way I would remember my chord shapes was to write songs with those chord shapes.
Wow. That makes so much sense, and the fact that I've never thought of it like that is kind of wild, because that makes perfect sense. But I guess because I've always found the concept of singing while playing so incredibly difficult, and I've always valued musicians who are able to do so, and especially at a high level. And I guess I never really thought, yeah, I guess that makes sense if you have lyrics and a rhythm to keep you kind of on track of what you're playing, and like you said, your chord shapes and whatnot. It makes perfect sense, but the fact that I've never thought about it.
It made it easy for me in the beginning. to take 3 typically chord shapes and write a song with it, and then you learn 2 more and you'll use that as a chorus if it sounds okay. I'm not really never really been in the music theory or anything like that or had the patience for it, but
Sure.
if it sounded good, we just run it.
Do you remember the very first like full song that you wrote?
Mm-hmm.
How old were you when you wrote that?
14.
14. Do you remember what it was called?
I don't. My parents kept a hard drive of all the songs that I had written and posted to YouTube. So I would take it, put it on the computer, and then post them on YouTube. And they kept it on a hard drive, a flash drive, rather. So they have every song that I'd ever written in
wild.
high school.
That's awesome. Do you remember your first Screaming Evidence song that you wrote?
Yeah.
Which one was that?
It was a song that I have it on a CD. We went to Aaron Klein's studio and we recorded it. But at that time, it was just me and Steve. And then Steve is an excellent guitar player. At the time, he could not play with other people. As far as like a metronome and time, he had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Same as me to this day.
Which is fair. He started off much like you guys with the Metallica and everything. He could play every Metallica song ever made. But it wasn't until we started writing together that
It was just a whole
it
new
was
thing to him.
apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world when you start playing with other people. Especially a full band where you've got, at least a drummer and a bassist and possibly another guitarist. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredibly difficult to take 4 separate people and tell them to make one piece of music together and make it sound good.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional musician. I do it for fun, and it is fun, but it's very difficult, and it can be frustrating too, especially when you know how good you are as yourself, but you're only as good as your weakest link. If I'm sure everybody's heard the saying before, and it's not even necessarily that there's a weak link in the band, but that everybody has an off day.
Sure.
I mean, you could play this song 100 times and fuck it up the 101st time.
Yep.
It is what it is.
So we've heard Tyler's version of it, but I want to hear your version of, kind of the birth of Screaming Evidence and where, the roots of how the band came to be, what it was from the start, and then how it got to where it's at now.
Well, Tyler was always with me. So there was a point we started playing guitar with each other. He come over. He showed me his little fucking Guns N' Roses. I was like, nah, but check this out. And
He's got a better way of explaining the story than I did.
I remember that night too. I showed him "Smile Empty Soul" and that night on MySpace.
God's Army.
Yeah, that was
And I
the
was
song.
immediately hooked. And then at that point, I was like,
Fuck Guns N'
yours
Roses.
to just.
Fuck Dawkins.
I was a sponge for you to just feed music to.
So what was impressive about that though was that I didn't show him that song. He went and got that song on his own.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think the only thing they do a couple war songs, especially for the time, was like 2004-ish when the Bush administration was going into Afghanistan and stuff. They were real against that. But there was another one on their first album, and I think I might have shown him that. But God's Army, I think, was off of Anxiety. So, but yeah, anyways, we played, so he was with me, we played together, and then it wasn't until senior year when a buddy of ours and me got our own place. So my parents were leaving, they were going to Circleville, and I had a choice. I could get a job and stay here, or I can go to Circleville. I got a job. I stayed here, and at that point in time, shit was it was off the hook, dude. I get off work at like
yes, it
10. We'd play music all night. And even then, people were learning my songs too. Just little ditties I wrote. Everybody could sing them. It was really neat. And after high school, shortly after high school, a buddy of ours and I, he was invited to jam with a couple guys. It ended up being Scotty, Jason, and a guy named Tony, and it was at this dude named Tony's house. He'd only ever played with me. At the time, he didn't know how to play guitar, but he would, sing songs with us. So he said he'd go out there and do the vocals for him and asked me if I'd come with him so he could sing some songs that he was comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Corey and I get out there, and they all have their electric guitars and shit, and I got an acoustic. That was it. I don't think I knew any of the songs. Maybe a Bullet for My Valentine song, but even then, only like the chorus. They might have played a Kill Switch Engage song, End of Heartache, but even then, I ain't screaming at you at that point in time. Fucking
I'm not
don't look at
Howard
me
Jones.
like that, bro. I'm a thanger. But
Fuck.
so I don't want to say that went well, but we kept getting together. Apart from the Tony guy, we never seen him again. He's probably like, dude, these are a bunch of kids, a bunch of little punk bitches. I ain't fucking with that. But Scotty and Jason, we met up with, and they said something about a bass player. I said, I know one. I got a hold of T. Scott. T. Scott came out. And that was the very beginning of it.
Which, by the way, I was not a bass player.
No, you weren't, but you were for me.
I told you guys.
I made you a fucking...
I told you guys, powers of persuasion. This dude hits me up. He's like, hey,
I'm gonna need you to play bass.
I'm gonna need you to play bass. I was like, I think I could do that. How long? When are we playing? He's like, I need you in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, I found a bass. I found a bass amp, and I learned how to play bass
In 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks.
That's impressive.
Well,
I'm a bad bitch. So.
Did he really, Shawn? Did he really learn?
I wasn't what I am
I'm
today.
kidding.
you think of like a learning as far as like Chris Novoselic for Nirvana can do,
Yeah.
You follow the root notes, baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I imagine I think that's pretty fucking generous. 16 years old, getting to go out and play some shows.
That's cool as
and
shit.
get
Hell
shit
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in reality, there's, if I'd had it my way, it would have just been my people and Scotty. Scotty's real laid back. Has he been on here yet?
Not yet.
No.
He will
Scotty
be on
is-
this season.
yeah.
Yes.
Scotty's pretty chill, man. Easy to get along with. He has moments like everyone else does, but when it comes down to it, he's really flexible for the kind of music that
Mm-hmm.
we've played, especially more so in the beginning. He just wants to play, is my personal opinion of him.
I agree.
But yeah, we played probably for a year and a half before T. Scott went to the Navy. And he left. I moved to Circleville, and I kept writing, man. I mean, it's a hobby, right? You don't stop playing
Yeah.
guitar.
No.
It just
Nope.
don't happen. Scotty got another band. He actually got back with the guitar player, ran into him, and they started another band. He got a hold of me, I think, watching a video of mine. I still got all those videos of I write songs, put them on Facebook, get my ego stroked a little bit.
Hell yeah.
And
Hey, we all need that.
Yeah. And he got a hold of me, said he had some free time, so he would come up from Columbus and we would jam together. And I never stopped talking to Tyler. We would Zoom. I'd show him songs I was working on.
He was telling me about how much of a bitch that was because, you're on
That was Skype, bro.
and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
The
a
connection
Skype.
was
there's
horrible.
a fucking delay, and you're telling him like, no, it's this, play it with me.
It was
and there's like
it was pixelated as fuck. It was like old 2000s internet porn. Like couldn't see anything. It's dark. He's trying to show me where the finger is, and he's like, then you start 557, whatever it is, and I'm like, okay, I'm with you, bro.
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy at all. I mean, the picture did nothing. It was like a phone call, essentially. We probably would have been better off with a phone call.
Probably.
At least we had better direction and knowing how to communicate with each other.
I think that just goes to show the dedication that you guys had to writing music together. And, you called it a hobby. I tend to want to call it a passion. At least that's what I feel like it is for me, for Preston, and what I feel like it is for you guys. So the dedication that you had to go through that was a lot. So let's go through. Tyler gets back from the Navy. You guys are kind of in this this particular vibe, not quite as I guess I'll use the term heavy as you are now. What was kind of that transition point where the sound started to change and you started to get a little heavier, if you will? And don't give all the credit to Preston sitting here for joining the band, but what was that tipping point where what you guys were writing started to change a little bit to what you're playing now? It's a loaded question.
Scotty ripping their ass.
I think part of it was Scotty, for sure, because he was on us from the very beginning about getting heavier.
Because of the bands and what he had listened to before.
Yeah, because he was a metalhead. And Shawn and I came from playing grunge and acoustic guitars, and the first songs that we had played together were the acoustic songs that Shawn wrote. And, from there we started writing songs more for the electric kind of thing. And the first few bigger songs that we played as a band that were written for that kind of setting were actually songs that I had wrote. And then from there, Shawn started writing songs for that setting, and his songs were better. So we played those. But I mean, I don't, the stuff that we're playing now, I mean, I'll let Shawn speak on that, but I mean, we were being pushed to be heavier from the beginning because of Scotty.
I think that's fair, but the sound itself, I honestly don't know. You imagine you hear songs, right? Like there are bands, Under Oath, I was big into them.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have the patience to learn a song like that. You're kind of comfortable in this groove that you've made, right? It's working for you.
Damn, I felt that.
So you don't know what hard is supposed to sound like. What I know that I don't want is to sit there and palm mute every 5 seconds, because that's what the cool kids do.
Yep.
It doesn't sound great to me.
Yep.
So I would let's say like The Debt. The Debt was one of the ones where I thought, okay, that goes hard. That can get it.
It definitely does.
I had to take inspiration from a song called Under the Knife, I think, from Chevelle's album La Gargola, I think is how you pronounce it.
Sounds right.
Them boys are weird.
Oh,
but
man,
we love them.
That's a gangster-ass song. But that, is what's hard to me. And from there, it progressed a bit. I think T. Scott branched out way more than what I did. I still listen to the same 5 albums every goddamn day.
That's our fault for forcing him to branch out.
No,
oh no, it's a good thing.
I was branching out when I got to the Navy and stuff, because I got just stagnant on the shit that I was listening to. And back then, you were still exchanging CDs with friends.
Yeah,
and I would run into friends I would work with in the Navy, and I'd be like, let's exchange CDs, bro. And that's how I found Thrice and a few other bands that I listened to.
Well, and I think that's really cool because we've said it a million times on this show, me and Kyler specifically, and Scotty, you know, we were into the heavier, want to just riff out stuff.
We palm muted a lot.
Yeah, palm muted.
I still palm mute a lot.
It shows.
So I was always into several different things growing up, whether it was a Deftones kind of stuff. I wasn't into them as much as I am now because of you two. But it was a band I had always listened to, or an Incubus. I was always into Incubus when I was a kid. But I always gravitated toward the heavier palm muted stuff. And even before I joined the band, that heavier palm muted stuff did get slightly old to me because it felt like everybody was doing it at the time. And it was like, how do I find a way as an artist, as a musician, to mix everything that I like together? And it felt like once I started running around with you guys and we started playing music together, it was like, okay, they have these roots, I have these roots. I think we can put them together, and I think it will be what I'm after selfishly, but maybe what we're all after, or maybe didn't realize what we were. But I think it with the newer stuff and stuff that we've played as of late, it kind of feels that way as well.
Yeah, with the newer stuff, like we were talking about before the podcast, the shapes that you would bring in is what I'm manipulating now.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, you know, that's not something that I would have ever went out on my own and looked for. Typically, I'd sit down with an acoustic guitar at the house and just play around until I found some progressions that are new to me. But when you came in, you riff a lot, bro. You riff a lot.
I can't play a full song, but I can fucking riff all day.
That's all right. Because there are things in there that, you know, the music that you would make sounds good. It does.
Uh-huh.
And then you taking the time to show me some of those things. There was a pattern that, what was it? 8/7, the 8/7 skip.
Oh, yeah.
I think it might be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gives it that cloudy, weird,
yeah.
yep.
So I been taking that a lot, and a couple of the songs kind of branch off of that. And
Yeah, I think a lot, that chord progression and that like key or whatever, we've been basing a lot of our stuff lately off of that.
Well, and Preston brings up a great point, and it's something that I've always thought about. You know, you talk about mixing two different roots, right? Two different styles. You know, every member of the band comes from a different background musically, and that is why I think you guys have done such a great job of meshing those together that it's so hard to genre-ize Screaming Evidence.
It's why we don't fit in at every show we play. It always feels like I don't know that outsider is the proper term or word for it, but it's just like we're either at this super heavy show where we are completely different than anybody there, or we're way heavier than whoever else we're playing with, which maybe is a blessing in disguise a lot of the time.
Well, I use the term radio core a lot, right? Or radio friendly or mainstream or whatever. You guys are not that at all. You're, in my opinion, as a fan, you know, just removing myself from the friend aspect, just as a fan, what Screaming Evidence does is so unique to what a lot of these rock and metal bands are doing nowadays, because you're mixing a lot of elements of what you guys draw influence from. And, you know, you've got harsh vocals, you've got real pretty melodies, you've got super heavy riffs in a lot of songs, you've got really pretty cleans in songs. You're able to kind of be a chameleon as a band and blend to a lot of different ears. And I think God, it sounds like I'm sucking your guys' dick real hard here, but that's what I think makes you guys so much
Dick
fun.
sucker.
That's fine. I just appreciate good music. And I think it's what makes you guys a lot of fun to listen to. And a lot of people that have listened to this pod have in turn gone and checked out Screaming Evidence and got back to me and been like, dude, this shit rips. And I'm like, yeah, it's different. It's not, you're not going to hear something like what they're doing on the radio every song. It's just different and it's very unique. And I think that's what makes it so much fun to listen to. And that is a compliment in the highest form.
No, it's nice to hear something like that from, that is more in depth than I could ever ask for. Most of the time when people come up and they're like, "Hey man, that was awesome," that's what you get.
Yeah.
Right.
You take that at face value. But yeah, no, that's nice. It made me feel warm and fuzzy. Thank you.
That's good, man. And
So
I
does
think
the bourbon.
I mean, I think I have, you know, and not just me, but any other person that's a musician or plays an instrument or really dissects music would be able to give that type of in-depth analysis. So that's where it comes from. Because me as a musician, I'm listening to the whole song, every element of the song, and you know, I mean, you take a song like Beijing Green and then put it against a song like The Best of Me, The Debt, even stuff off the older album, The Debt. There's just every song has a completely different feel to it. It's almost like you're listening to a different band because you guys are super versatile. So just the way that you guys have been able to grow and be so creative is what I think makes Screaming Evidence one of the most unique and talented bands in the local, quote unquote, local music scene. So
Beijing Green, bud.
Beijing Green goes so fucking
I
hard, bro.
fucking loved that song up until we recorded it.
Yep.
I
Same
wish
here.
if we could erase that off
Yep.
that fucking album and redo it.
Okay, what would you what do you want to change?
The timing and our preparedness.
Nah, I think just the way it came out sounding is just not what it is. Like when we played it, I remember playing it out for the first time.
That would have
Matter
been
of fact,
before me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you might have been with me when our set was done. So we were meant to play with Puddle and Mud for a second time at in Cincinnati, the Frog.
Mad Frog.
Mad Frog, yeah. They drop out. He had some issues. Come back. We play with them for the second time in Kentucky at a skate park. It was an indoor warehouse
Down in Florence, I think.
I really can't remember.
y'all.
I know it was Kentucky, but it had like pictures of Lil Wayne on the wall skating. I was like, this is dope as fuck.
Hell yeah.
Had like highly suspect written on the half pipe.
It was sweet, man. But and they had, when we were playing, we opened the show up, and when we were playing, they had these kids. Well, I say kids, they might have been adults. I don't fucking know, but they were like skating in a bowl underneath us, doing tricks and shit. I was like, man, this is where it's at. I
That'd
made
been
it.
cool.
son.
Well,
Yeah.
the stage was up on the kind of deck of the half pipe.
Yeah,
And so
that's right.
there was kids skating on that half pipe while we were playing,
That's
and it was
dope.
dark
That
as
is-
shit.
that's
Cool
metal
as
as fuck.
That is metal.
It was, but it was dark, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, one of these dudes are going to die. Like, how do they
might
see
be
what they're
me.
doing?
And it was a big show. There was a big crowd. I remember we started off with No Return, and that was the first time we had played that back in a while. And then towards the end, we played Beijing Green for the first time. Well, when our set was done, I remember two things. I remember one of the kids that I seen skating in a bowl come up and asked about No Return, if they could find it anywhere. And at shows like that, some of these people don't realize that you're not as big as they would think that you are.
Well, you're playing with Puddle of Mud.
Right, Puddle of Mud's kind of falling off, kind of not, right? You'll still hear him on the radio every now and
dude
again.
kinda went
But yeah,
Bonkers.
yeah. But at that show, he was cool. I did get to talk to him. He seemed like he's in the right state of mind.
Yeah.
It is what it is. The first show, he didn't show his fucking face the whole night, not until it was time to play. But so I remember the kid coming up asking about No Return. And then it was either my brother and I or you and I. We were out on the patio talking about the set. And this dude kind of come up, and I remember him like nodding his head. And I said something about Beijing Green, and he went, "Oh man, I was wondering if you guys were gonna play that song."
What?
Like, yeah, you like that song, huh? You heard that before? It was fucking gangster, wasn't it?
That's fucking hilarious.
I love
I guess
that
I didn't
song.
realize that Beijing Green was that old.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the songs that we play are really old.
Mm-hmm. They come in twos.
They normally do, yeah.
Yeah, like you write two
twos
at
or
a time.
threes.
The last one was Thanatophobia and Cadence.
Yep.
Before that, what was Transparent with?
I thought
Maybe
Cadence
it was
was one that you
different.
brought.
Was it
Transparent-
Mom's song and something
Transparent
else?
came with Best of Me. I'm pretty sure. And then you had like the Mom song and Better Left Unsaid. But well,
That
better
was about
left
when I was coming around.
better
Yeah,
left
yeah.
unsaid was like we had the bass line of it, but we hadn't really played it out, and then Preston came on and kind of helped add some layers to it, and then we started playing it out. I miss playing that song.
I do too. It's got a cool
Yeah.
vibe to it.
That fucking bass line is super fun to play.
So, Shawn, what are you most excited about when it comes to Screaming Evidence moving forward? I've asked these two guys the same question. So, what do you feel is next for Screaming Evidence?
I like the direction just from the music that we've been writing here recently. It's really challenging for me because when you have another guitar player that's capable, I think most people would back off a bit, but I would rather play guitar than do anything else. So it's not gonna happen.
And that's why I had said earlier that I thought you had just started singing out of necessity for the band, because I remember you making comments a while back that if you could just play guitar, that's what you would do.
Yeah. That stands pretty true. But the songs that we're writing now are so much more difficult for me, and not how it's played, but the rhythm that it's played. When I would write songs, I could kind of match the vocal line up with my hand. It doesn't work that way now, so it makes me stumble. I just found a way that night. I was telling you that I'd written that chorus to one of the new songs. I just found a way to play the other chorus from the other new song. So instead of dropping off, I can play it now. That's been a hard part of it, but the songs in general, when they are done, I can't wait to see what they sound like, especially Full Force, the one new song that's kind of Incubus like, right? It's got a real lighter feel.
Mm-hmm.
We had a moment there, you know what I'm saying? And I can't wait to get it back.
Yeah.
Those moments are fun, man. It's just like when we're all together and something just hits all of us, and we look at each other and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We're
Holy
locked
shit.
in, baby.
We did
We're
it.
locked in.
Yeah.
We didn't realize what we were after, but I think we did it.
Y'all know what I'm most excited for. We talked about it before the show. That one riff. That's-
And that
Oh,
one's
yeah.
brand new compared to most of what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
surprised you said that. I mean, it feels good, but
For anybody that
Yeah.
joined us on the TikTok live when we live streamed Screaming Evidence practice, the riff that you guys were sending the fire emojis in on, that's the one I'm talking about, because it lives in my fucking head rent free ever since I heard it. So I can't wait to hear that one finish because it's fucking gorgeous. It's gonna be super fun.
Did you record that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was that night he was here, and we were all jamming around.
Yeah, I got it. If you want it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
what did it sound like? You sound okay?
You fuck yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
he said it's
bro,
been
like-
rent free in my
Rent
head.
free
I
in my
just
head,
did it.
dog.
we would have been just kind of dribbling around with it because
you
that
got-
was one of the first.
Yeah, we were
Yes.
just fucking around.
Yeah, but the more you played it, the more shit started to come together. So it was super cool to hear that progression of, they're figuring it out. It's coming together. So yeah.
Okay.
No, that was the one that everybody that was watching live was sending fire emojis to.
Oh yeah.
So it was, yeah, like I said, rent free in my head is probably the perfect way to describe that.
And I think you make a good point, and maybe it's something I didn't realize, but like you had mentioned once you added another guitarist, rather than having to take a step back and maybe not have as much on your plate as what was on your plate when you were a three-piece, it feels like we've kind of all challenged each other even more now, instead of you taking a step back, me taking more of the load, like maybe the styles or whatever it is, but it's challenged us all and challenged all of our songwriting. And I think once this stuff is finished and out there, I think a lot of the loyal fans that we have will finally, it'll put it into perspective, like, oh, this is what they were mentioning, or maybe this is what they were talking about at this show or whenever we've seen them, because I truly think I don't know that it's a lot different, and maybe more complex isn't the best way to describe it, but I think it's all what we've been after.
Yeah. I subscribe to the notion too that we don't have to look at, I mean, when you're in an introduction setting, okay, whatever. But as far as the music goes, we don't have to necessarily be rhythm and lead, right? I can play the rhythm, and you could play ambiance. You could have ambiance to the song. You can have like a second rhythm going.
Something underlying.
It doesn't have to be a lead, right?
Exactly.
You can make the song so much fuller in that sense.
And that as a guitarist, I've never been after like the super shreddy stuff or super lead heavy stuff. We've talked about it on this show. It might have been episode 2 and 3 that it's always been something about melody and the full mix of the song.
Bro, you just took me down memory lane.
Yeah.
Because I never cared about leads. All I cared about was rhythm and heavy ass riffs. And when
because of the way we grew up.
When we were kids, I say kids, 14, 15, 16, right. 7, whatever. He always would be like, all right, play me something. And I would just come up with a riff, and he would make this gorgeous ass solo over top of it. And that's all. I mean, we just had a blast doing that shit. Yeah. Because he loved to write these real pretty ambient leads, and it was never, like he said, anything never super shreddy.
Probably because I couldn't pick fast enough. But.
No, but an ambient feel solo sounds so much better than something super shreddy.
And we've always agreed on that point.
And so, God, that's how we grew up, dude. We would just sit at each other's houses for hours, and he'd be like, all right, next one, hit me with another one. I'd play another riff, and he would just write this super gorgeous solo over top of it, and we would just fucking jam on our little 15-watt line 6 amps. Dude.
Yeah,
like
the spider amp. Y'all remember the spider amp?
That shit just took me down memory lane because that was my fucking childhood, man.
You could go on for hours. Like T. Scott and I would sit in a basement for hours just to get one song 100% correct, and I wouldn't let anybody leave that fucking basement until we got it right. Yeah. Until we had it on video and I could watch it back and fucking enjoy that shit myself.
He definitely wouldn't let you sleep.
No.
That's for sure.
If you start it, you finish it. At least at that point in time, right? That was all we had to do.
We would go to your mom's in Circleville and hang out, and we'd start a song, I don't know, like 5 in the afternoon or something. It'd be like 5 in the morning. I'm like, bro, can I go to sleep now? And he's like, hang on. I need you to play this riff a few more times so I can finish the lyrics. A few more times, my ass, I'd be sitting there playing it for another 20 minutes. Meanwhile, my hands are numb at this point. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely fun. But yeah, you wouldn't let nobody fucking quit until the shit was done.
Writing lyrics are hard, at least for me. I've been doing it for a long time.
Brother, I can't do it.
Mm-mm.
Well, you say that until you get going.
That's fair. I mean, I guess I've never
Same as starting a podcast.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it'd be kind of similar.
Yep.
Especially if it was scripted.
But that's metal as fuck.
It's hard, man. I try not to use a lot of curse words unless you're using, like exclamation at the end of points. If you're just using curse words every 5 seconds, then you really have nothing to say to begin with.
That's true.
And I tried to not use the same words other than, the and shit like that. The words that you have to.
Yeah.
Transition words.
But you can find different ways to describe different feelings and situations. And I try my best to do that. And it takes a minute.
Well, and it goes to show because, like, you talk about wanting to perfect a song, and when you were younger, that's what you guys did. It was, we're going to perfect it. We'll make a song. I mean, there's songs that we have right now that are a year old, and they're not finished because, one, not having the utmost time to get together, of course, because of everything else. But also, it's like something's just off. Either something needs added, something needs taken out, something needs changed. And I feel like right now we're at that spot where it's like, okay, we got the gist of all these 5, 6, however many songs it is. And it's like each one just needs that extra push or that extra piece or something taken out and switched. And then it's there. And then we're able to play those out and really, really put new material out that we're truly proud of.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're just waiting on lyrics and how we're going to sing the shit to finish these songs out.
Which is a big piece.
Yeah, a lot of them.
But, to that's going to be some of this new recording stuff we got to be able to, kind of record some of the guitar and whatnot, and that makes it a lot easier than having T. Scott play the riff for 12 hours straight. Which it was fun for me.
Well, back then, like I said,
That's all we had.
time. Now it's more doses, right? The last time we did it, it was probably for about an hour. But we got quite a bit. I mean, we're able to play that song now. We repeat lyrics, but still we're able to play it and know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Life happens, man. You have kids,
sure.
you get married. It's just you gotta get more efficient with your time musically, and I think you guys have done a good job at that.
It's hard to play with kids, man, because that's all they want to do. When they see you do something, they want to do it with you.
Yeah.
And how can you tell them no? I want my kids to be into it.
Yeah.
And if I'm always pushing them away, making it my thing and not our thing, then it may not work out that way. But back to the point of when a song's done, I always like to think that a song was done when you couldn't imagine it another way. So if you take your favorite song, okay, and I told you write lyrics over that, it's not gonna happen, because the only lyrics that are gonna come to your head are the ones that you know from the song. And it's hard to do. I mean, just going on, how much time it takes. I can think of lines that I've dropped that I left in there for a while and, it never really sat right. So you go back and eventually it works itself out. Sarcasm took 4 or 5 years to write. And we changed that shit up so many times.
What about Say?
Say, we started
back
in Michigan.
Up in Michigan.
Yeah.
115 degrees in them fucking cabins.
That was 2012.
That was
Right
the
before
summer
you left.
before I left for the Navy. And the verses were actually more along the lines of like Attention Freak and stuff when we first wrote it. And then we were trying to bring it back.
It was a good hook. That was all we
had.
had.
That's
the
all.
The chorus was all that survived.
All that survived. And Shawn was like, man, I want to change the verses on this and bring this song together. And, we ended up changing some things, but it kind of speaks to, if you can imagine it another way that might be better, it's not done. But, I know you're kind of running out of some time, but I would like to hear your take on a couple things.
What's that?
So first, I want to hear your worst show experience we've had, and I want to hear your favorite.
Okay. Easy money.
Okay.
He's got to readjust.
We've had some really bad experiences.
The worst show experience was the most recent that I can think of. The first one I thought of when you said it was the first show back we played over in Jeffersonville at like a strip mall.
At a strip club in Jeffersonville?
There was a bar out there.
There was a strip club in Jeffersonville?
We should have been there.
Tanked the entire set. It was so bad. I had never been so humiliated, embarrassed in my life. The only redeeming factor, I mean, you had one guy sitting up there going, yeah, that was cool.
There's always the one drunk guy.
Yeah.
Free bird!
We played aerials at the end of the set, and that was the only redeeming factor. That was the worst. That was very defeating.
Well, part of that too was I remember in that show there was like 3 songs I played bass in, and then like another 4 that I played guitar in.
Oh, it was rushed. We probably shouldn't have got back on the horse as fast as we did.
No,
But
we had like 4 months of practicing from the time I moved back from the Navy till we played that show.
I don't even know if it was that much, because we went back and forth too on like a practice spot of where we were going to meet and play. But regardless, whatever happened, it didn't work out. It was bad. I have nightmares of that dude just telling me to rock on in my head.
Rock on, man. So what was the best one
The best.
so far?
Oh, I got the best show and the best moment. The
Ooh.
best show might be the last Barnyard Bash that we played.
Mhm.
Getting that encore That's happened twice. We did that. We got an encore at that Barnyard Bash, which Preston was a part of. So
Yeah, that was
for
really
inclusion,
cool.
It was. And then we played a show with Saving Abel at the Newport, right on the Cincinnati, Kentucky line.
Is that Madison Theater
Was
or
it?
Madison Live in Newport, Kentucky?
Yes, yeah.
Isn't
at
that, isn't that
Newport,
where we
Kentucky.
just saw Norma Jean at?
So we
The
seen
newer building. I
we
think.
were at Madison Theater. Right next door is Madison
Okay.
Live. It's more like a dive bar kind of.
Gotcha.
Now, granted, we had a different bass player at the time, and he wasn't in the best way. But we got an encore from that set too, and yeah, that was incredible. And I guess I dipped out pretty early, but I guess the lead singer came up, got a shirt, talked to Tyler. It was pretty cool.
Best moment.
That
was your best moment.
yeah. And then the best show I think was the last Barnyard.
Yeah, that last
Yeah, and-
Barnyard was an experience for the ages, man.
I feel like
It was-
getting an encore would just be the coolest fucking thing ever.
Right,
As
and
a,
it's
as
a
well,
bunch of people you don't know.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
this
And-
specifically at the show at Newport, Kentucky. It was
Yeah.
faces we didn't know.
And
We
so-
had like maybe 10 people there with us, and that place was pretty packed
Yeah.
when we played, and there wasn't a single motherfucker not screaming one more song. And that was probably one of those moments I had where I was like, we're fucking rock stars. Saving Abel didn't get an encore that night.
I don't.
But we
it's
did.
Surprising.
I was gonna say I'm not really surprised by that, but I mean it is cool that she played with Saving Abel, but and you got to think that at a venue like that in a different state, and you said not a lot of familiar faces. How many of those people had heard your music before? Probably
I'm
not
sure
very
none of
many.
them.
None.
Maybe not. Probably none of them. And they were like, "These dudes fucking rip. One more." Like that's cool as shit.
And
It
it's
is.
original music. It's not like we were up there playing,
Playing
a bunch of covers.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
Did you play any covers that night?
we did. We played Change, didn't we?
Yep.
Like Candlebox Change?
No,
Deftones.
Change in the House
That's a
of
great
Flies.
song as well.
It's like Candlebox
But
Change.
Deftones.
Could you rip that shit, Sean?
I bet Sean could.
I bet you could. He's
You know,
kind of
you
high
know who
pitched.
Candlebox is.
I know Candleboxes. I'm trying to think because they had Far, and they had.
Yeah. Oh shit. Don't make me try to sing it here. Nope.
I can't think of how the song goes, but maybe.
Yeah, so alive now.
There it is.
That didn't sound a lick like anything.
No, it's not supposed to. I can't sing, bro. Preston loved when I sang fucking, what was it, My Own Prison?
That's
Oh
it.
man, now that's a jam right there.
And Scott Stapp we trust.
Yes, sir. That man's a god amongst
Scott
men.
Stapp, and Scott Stapp we trust in this sanctuary.
Good lord.
Fuck y'all if you don't like Creed.
Yeah, yes.
That's
Well-
my guy.
Well, Sean, we want to be respectful of your time, man, and we appreciate the shit out of you coming on, brother, and I hope you enjoyed being able to kind of speak freely and talk a little bit about your musical journey and the band and what's the past and what's next. So thanks for coming on, bro.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back with y'all. All right, we're back. Man, that was awesome having Shawn on. I knew it would be, and I'm glad that he was able to make some time and come in and spend an hour or so with us this evening and tell his side of the Screaming Evidence story and kind of his musical background. And it's fucking awesome to hear. And Tyler, I know you got some shit you want to say, my brother, so I'm going to let you fucking let it rip.
Yeah, so I got a lot of I would love to say, but kind of trying to figure out how to start it. So we consider musical influences, and we consider like particular musicians or artists that we really look up to. And I would say, other than my dad, Shawn has been the biggest musical influence in my life.
That's fucking awesome, man.
And what's so fucking awesome about that is that's like my best friend, dude. He's my older brother. That's
Right.
big bro right there. And to kind of put some context to that, you know, Shawn kind of made a little comment about, you know, when we first got together and started playing, you know, the first day I went over to his house to play guitar with him because we were talking on MySpace and found out that we each played music because I seen him post something on his MySpace with him playing. I was like, bro, I fucking play too. I had no idea that you did. And he was like, well, come over and jam sometime. And I brought my acoustic over, and I was playing like Sweet Child O' Mine. I was playing, you know, Nothing Else Mattered from Metallica. Didn't know I knew a little bit of Metallica, did you? But
It's a beautiful song.
it is.
Wait,
I was
say
playing-
that again.
It is.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
There
But
it is.
anyway, motherfucker. But you know, I was playing a lot of like Leonard Skinner and stuff like this. The stuff that my dad had shown me. But up to that point, playing guitar to me was just this thing that was kind of cool. And it's going to sound very conceited for me to say this, but I picked up guitar really fast. And I was impressing my dad's friends that had been playing for 15, 20 years up to that point, and I had been playing for a few months. The way I picked up guitar and just ran with it, but I chose to do nothing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always kick myself in the ass for that because I'd be such a better guitarist and musician nowadays had I really let myself go like balls deep with it.
Yeah.
But it was just this kind of cool thing to me. It was this novelty deal.
Like a hobby.
Yeah, it was more of a hobby. It wasn't a passion like you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Excuse me. When I met Shawn, and I talk about how, you know, I really fell in love with music when I found like grunge and stuff like that. When Shawn started showing me the music he was playing, and I was seeing at that point that this dude that lives, you know, a mile from my house is writing music, and he's only 2 years older than me, and I love his fucking music that he's writing. It was the coolest fucking thing in the world to me, and getting into this music that he was showing me, that's when the passion developed. Up to that point, music was just this, it was almost like I was playing guitar just to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was playing guitar because the chicks loved it. I wasn't playing it because I really enjoyed doing it. When I started playing with Shawn, that's when I really started to enjoy playing music. And that's when I really started to fall in love with music in the way that I have. And from there, having one of your, I mean, I really have always looked up to Shawn because he's always been a great songwriter. And, you know, he kind of spoke to his methodology around it and everything, but it was something, I mean, that I had never seen before, because most of my experience was with my dad and the bands that he played in, where they were playing mostly covers. They would write a few songs, but it was mostly covers, and the kind of music they played was more about the party. And I started getting into this stuff with Shawn, where it's more about the emotions and dealing with shit, and I was dealing with shit at the time, and it was the turning point for me when I said, this is what I want to do with my fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know every musician out there has that moment where, you know, they realized, holy fuck, this is what I want to do. And kind of going from there, that goes into why I love Screaming Evidence so much. Part of the passion is getting to write music with Shawn. And then it developed into having Scotty there. And, you know, as time progressed, now we have Preston there. Music fucking sucks when you don't have other
Someone to share it
people
with.
to write that music with. I talk about wanting to do a little bit of a solo project, and I think the biggest thing that holds me back from doing that is every time I sit down by myself to write music that is just going to be me playing or me producing and have no one else involved with, I get fucking blank.
Mhm.
I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck to do, man. And I realized that part of the passion of music is playing with other people. Like you talked about the dedication and shit with us playing over Skype and shit. That's because,
Is out of pure enjoyment.
bro, I hated my fucking life at that time. One of the only things that kept me going was the times I would go back home on leave and get to play with Shawn, and I would always spend 1 or 2 nights with him for the 2-week period I'd be home, which is a lot considering I have a lot of family that I was trying to see too. But then also having those times when he and I could chat over the phone and talk about music, and then get on Skype and try to learn the shit. And I was starting to dabble into recording stuff then, so I would eventually like go and record what I learned and have something to be able to play to. But you know, that shit kept me fucking going in a time when I was not well.
It is so, I don't know the right word to use, but I'll say validating to hear you say that, because not to get too emotional, fuck it. That's what we do on this pod. To get emotional. That's how I feel about this guy right here.
Mm-hmm.
Because him and I were the same thing in essence as you and Shawn. We taught each other how to become musicians. We taught each other to play guitar. I mean, we've said it before on this show. Our parents, our dads would cart us around to each other's house before we had our license for the sole purpose of, we're going to fucking jam for 2 days straight. That's all we're going to do, is we're going to fucking jam.
We're going to melt faces.
We're going to listen to music. We're going to look up the tabs, and we're going to learn to play it. And then I'm going to write a riff, and Preston's going to write a solo over top of it. And
it was like the only person we could do that with at the time.
It was you and me, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, we became friends. We became friends because of sports. We played on the same Pony League team together in elementary school. That's how we originally became friends. We became best friends through music.
Yep.
We became brothers through music.
Yep.
And you and I, Tyler, and you and Preston have became brothers through music. And we talk about how deep of an impact music can have when one truly embraces it and understands it. And I've never felt that to be more true than tonight, with the conversation between, you and Shawn, and having Shawn give his perspective, and then listen to what you just said, because, music is so powerful in that fact that it can create lifelong friendships and brotherhoods and sisterhoods through its scope. And
there's a reason people that aren't musicians go to local shows every single weekend. There's a real reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because that sense of camaraderie, that sense of brotherhood,
it's the brotherhood.
sisterhood. It's what they immerse themselves in, and I've said it a million times, but the best thing I ever did for myself as a musician, but also just for myself, was joining a band, because like I never understood what it was like to truly create music with somebody else and have that all come together at once. Because
Right, it's not just writing riffs.
Yes,
anymore.
it's not.
So
it's not.
Tyler, you talk about when you were in the Navy, right? And you're away from Shawn. You're probably the only one there wherever you're stationed at the time, or you're the only one there that's playing guitar, writing music, doing all that. When I went to college and I lived on campus, Granted, I was only half an hour away from home. He was not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember sitting in my dorm with my Ibanez and my fucking 15-watt Line 6, Spider 5 or Spider 4, baby.
Let's go.
Windows open, jamming. And I'll never forget, there was a dude named Joey that lived a couple floors down from me and heard my guitar and was like searching for the room. Like, where is this coming from?
Was he selling candy?
No, he wasn't selling candy. He wasn't selling.
Was that his in?
I don't even know if I've ever told Preston this story, but like I felt so isolated because it was just me, right? Like I couldn't wait to come home on the weekend so Preston and I could jam. But I played every day, and I would just be sitting in my room playing by myself. And this dude Joey, he came looking for this. Where was this sound coming from? And I'm jamming. I hear a knock on my door. I'm like, oh, it's my RA. I'm playing too loud. They're wanting me to turn it down. Somebody complained. And I open the door, and it's this dude, and he's like, bro, are you in here jamming? I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, my name's Joey. I play bass. You want to jam? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. Of course I do.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. And
You son of a bitch.
I was a freshman. You son of a bitch. I'm in. Rick and Morty voice. I was so glad to find someone else that, when I was away from Preston and away from home with, my buddy who I jammed with all the time, to find someone else who I never knew. And this was freshman year, and I jammed with that dude all the way through school. Because, it was just that's that. Now, unfortunately, we're not in contact anymore, but, he's from a different state. You go to college, you go to school with people from all over the country and whatnot. But, but it was cool for the time being there that be like, yo, you text him, you down to jam tonight? Hell yeah, I'll bring my rig over and we'll jam. And, we would go, we actually played the national anthem before a basketball game one time. I know it's Division III. I've told you that before, I think, but maybe not. It's just like you find people who relate to you in that way, and you it's like you automatically become friends, even if you like different types of music. It's just music itself. You're like, let's fucking go, let's jam. We're best friends now. So, but some of those relationships, last a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, the only guy I had down there while I was in the Navy that played music, so there was two. The one I never linked up to play music with, but he was a direct supervisor of mine, and there's like a fraternization kind of issue with that. But then friend of a friend kind of ran into this dude from Kansas City, and he played drums, but he never had, he didn't have his drum set with him. And we would hang out. We were playing like Risk and drinking together and stuff like that. And he hits me up one day. He's like, "Hey, I just got back from leave, and I picked up my drums." And I was like, "When and where, bitch?"
Yeah, fuck yeah.
and we got together and we started jamming a few songs, and we played. At that time, it was just me playing guitar and singing, and him playing drums, and it was just something that we would do just to blow off steam, because we loved doing it. And so we learned a couple of covers. The one that we played was The Red.
Chevelle.
So we had a couple of songs that we played, but that was like only the last,
that's a jam, by the way,
5 maybe
so
6 months
songs,
that I
man.
was in the Navy, if that even. Yeah, it just, that was the only taste of it that I got while I was down there, which was kind of shitty considering up to the time I left for boot camp, it was all day, every day, my life consisted of playing music.
Yeah.
When I wasn't at work, when I wasn't at school, sometimes they even took my guitar into school, and instead of eating lunch at lunchtime, I would sit there and fucking play. And going from that into being in the Navy, and then just not having the opportunity to play while you're in boot camp. I didn't even get my guitar until like the last one of the 3 months I was in Pensacola for A school. I started, I got the guitar, and I had to check it in as property. and one of the guys at the front that are kind of running the A school, they were like, "Can you play this thing?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I can play this thing."
Yeah.
He's like, "Play me something." I hadn't played that guitar at that time. It was 5 months.
Ooh.
And I grabbed it and I started trying to play some of the difficult shit that I had played before and just absolutely butchered it.
Yeah.
And this dude was looking at me like, "You sure you could play that
You-
thing?" And I was like,
Did you just bamboozle me, bro?
was like, "Wow, I kind of hate my life right now."
Yeah.
And,
We said you hated your life anyway, so.
Yeah, so that moment was a very embarrassing moment for me, but I never really had an opportunity to get back into music until that last few months that I was in the military, and when I would come home on leave and get to hang out with Shawn.
Yeah. It's just cool, man. It's cool to talk about how those relationships started and how they've grown. And like I said, you look at the three of us and look at you and Shawn, look at me and Preston. I mean, it's lifelong brotherhood, man.
Yep.
And it's
Absolutely.
and it became as strong as it is because of music. And we want all of the folks listening to feel that feeling. And if you don't have somebody that, because I know that being a metalhead, sometimes you can feel like an outcast, but I want y'all to know that you're not alone. And you've got brothers and sisters out there that are straight up metalheads, and doing this podcast and doing the TikToks and all that. Like, I have made so many, and granted, a lot of you guys are online friends. I can't wait to meet some of you. I know my buddy Jake at Metalcore Highlights is going to come on the pod here before too long. Can't wait to get you on, bro. Working on a movie trailer for us, by the way. So shout out, Jake. Appreciate you, my guy. I have come in contact with so many of you guys just from doing this podcast that, you create these friendships and this relationship based off of, we're metalheads. We're rock and roll fans. We're whatever it is. It's so cool to experience that, because I don't think that there's any tighter connection than people who are rock and metal fans. It's just such a close-knit group. And no, it's not hard to get into. It's not all-inclusive. It is.
Nope.
We want everybody in here, but a lot of times people grow up in situations or families or friend groups or schools or communities, whatever it might be, where that's just not necessarily widely loved or even accepted, and you feel like that outcast, that angst, that and this is a place for y'all to come and feel a part of the brotherhood, because that's what the Screaming Idiot show is all about.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, you think about like conversations we had with Derek back in season 1, where he's talking about his lifelong story and how it influenced the music he listens to, and it was the soundtrack to his life and stuff.
Dude,
and
that
then
was the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, and then we got talking about how music can oftentimes help express the emotions that you yourself have trouble expressing.
Or even explaining.
Yeah. And then you hear that someone else is listening to music that has helped express emotions that you deal with either temporarily or on the daily or whatever it is, and you see that this other person is listening to this music and that they're connecting with it in the same way, and it's like no words had to be spoken, and you already know that you are similar in some sense.
I don't give a fuck about your background, your story,
you're dealing
nothing.
with the same shit. You're going through the same bullshit.
Yep.
And this person now is, this person you can bond with on that without saying a fucking word.
Yep.
It's incredible. And I'm telling you, there is no other music genre that can do that. Like, we've listened to it all: country, hip hop, rap, R&B. It doesn't matter. There is no, at least for me and you guys, and I know a lot of folks out there, that there is no genre of music that can do it quite like rock or metal, because
none of it.
As musicians in this genre, we and they, whoever's putting the music out, puts so much thought and emotion into it, the good ones at least, put so much thought and emotion into every fucking piece of music that they put out. And it's all about telling a story. And telling a story that is relatable to somebody somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so special.
Maybe it's not even a story sometimes. It's sometimes just explaining a situation.
Yeah,
Or
for sure.
a simple feeling.
Or trying to conceptualize an emotion that someone's dealing with that maybe they don't quite understand.
Yeah.
And so I mean I deal with that a lot. And I'm listening to music that helps put it into words, that helps express it in a way that, you know, even the musicality of it, maybe it's this soft, kind of sadder song, or it's this real aggressive, angry fucking song, and it's helping to explain that emotion that I'm dealing with. And, you know, that's real, that's powerful. And hearing that other people enjoy that music, I'm like, I know why the fuck you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to,
because I know why I like it.
To me. Yeah.
We have said it so many times. Preston, you've said it several times. I know music saved our life.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to do so every day. And I'm thankful to have you guys and this group of friends that we have, Derek, Ryan, Shawn, Scotty. I mean, you name it.
So many others.
We've been able to create this group that all think alike and feel the same way about this, you know, this music. But I'm so thankful to have you guys to share music with and relate music to. And it's just, it's so good for the soul, for my mental health, for you, because my parents don't listen to shit I listen to. My fiance doesn't listen to the shit I listen to. My friends outside of you guys don't listen to shit I listen to.
Yep.
It is so comforting and relaxing and invigorating, validating, you name the adjective, to have that ability to share this passion for this music with other people. And that's, again, we've said it before, and we'll keep harping on it. That's why we're doing this show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a place, it's people that you can be around where you feel safe expressing and discussing and you know, dealing with the deeper level shit that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, you know, if I'm hanging out with friends that I know don't listen to the type of music I listen to, they typically don't have the same mindset as me. They typically aren't dealing with some of the same shit that I'm dealing with.
It always feels like it's surface level conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I know you say you're not one for small talk. I've always been, I don't mind having small talk with somebody.
Tyler is not for small talk.
Right. But it's like these kind of conversations are truly what I'm after.
Yeah.
On a daily basis.
And then,
I hope,
you know,
the listeners feel the exact same.
I know a lot of them do, because I have had so many reach out to me and be like, bro, I feel what you guys say on a level that I cannot describe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good. That's what we want.
Exactly.
This isn't just for fun. Yeah, we're having a blast, but we want to, touch people in a way that they're like, holy fuck, dude, I felt that in my soul.
Yeah.
Right. And then you mentioned, you know, it being good for the mental health. My mental health is a big reason why I listen to the shit I listen to. And I know that you can relate because you kind of went through some of the same shit that I've dealt with.
Yeah, man.
Where, you know, anxiety and depression is real and it's not talked enough about. And
especially for us men.
Especially for us men. And that was kind of the whole premise of the event that we played this weekend.
Yeah.
Banded for Brothers and mental health awareness and things like that. Because if you knew the guy the event was for, you would never know that dude was depressed.
Yeah.
But I had no clue.
Bro, you would never know that you or I would. Bro, I've been medicated before. Literally, I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about it because I'm such an advocate for mental health. I have been medicated for depression before. And yeah it worked for a short amount of time. But it turned me into a zombie.
Love you.
Ta-da!
Love you.
I love you too, bro. But it turns you into a zombie. And I'm getting emotional here because this shit means something to me. And it wasn't it, man. And I remember telling my doctor, like, yeah, it's great that I don't feel
Anything.
super sad all the time, but I don't feel anything at all. And I'm like, this isn't me. Like, I don't want to feel this. And I remember telling my doctor, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm going to find a way to beat this on my own. And I found it through music.
Mm-hmm.
And the friendships that I've built through music. And doing that, and doing that, I was able to become so much more of a full, fulfilled, complete person. And being able to express, not being ashamed to express my feelings, like, man, I'm feeling sad today. I know exactly what I want to listen to. And it's able to pull me right out of that.
Yep.
Or man, I'm pissed off today. I know what the fuck I want to listen to today. I'm gonna justify the way I'm feeling right now.
Yep.
And it's all
shit adds gas to the fire, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but in a good way. But in a good way. Because when you listen, when you're pissed off, when you're pissed the fuck off, and you play something super aggressive and you let all that fucking anger out and you're punching the fucking steering wheel, you're doing whatever you gotta do. When it's over, you're like,
yep.
Whew, I feel better.
Yep.
So being able to, I mean, music is my medication, bro.
Bro, I'm a holler at you.
I
We're
know.
going deep. We're
That's-
going deep.
Boy, you got a hell of a holler on you.
Shout out Ryan.
Shout
Season
out
one.
Ryan.
So look, around the time that my kids were born, so I started on medication probably 3 or 4 months. I think my oldest son, so my firstborn kid, was about 3 months old.
Okay. So this would have
And-
been 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
This would have been about
God.
8 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Eight
yeah.
and a half
I
years.
cannot,
So
first off, I
he's
can't believe
9.
he's that old. But
He's gonna
Crazy,
be
man.
10 here
Yeah.
in about 6 months.
Yeah.
And so 3 months into my kids being in my firstborn coming around, I started getting on medications.
Mm-hmm.
And bro, the process around that, I went through 3 different medications before a 4th one started to seem to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dealing with getting on medications that would give me bad mood swings.
Okay.
And then switching to something else, having to come down off of the one while starting the other, and then getting to that 4th one where coming off of one, getting started on this one, and then I start increasing the dose. You know, it'll work for a while, then they're like, let's increase the dose. Work for a while, increase. And it got to the point where I was on the max dose.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of being a fucking zombie. And I have a 1-year-old son with another on the way. And I am a fucking zombie at work. I'm a zombie at home. And I had no way of really explaining what I was dealing with because I didn't know the fucking words. And I'm talking to mental health professionals, and they don't seem to understand exactly what I'm going through because they've never experienced it themselves, and they're just going off of what they read in some fucking books.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, try this pill, try that pill. And I'm dealing with this time in my life where I'm in probably the darkest fucking hole imaginable. And I have a kid and another kid on the way, and I feel next to nothing. And I know I love my kids, and I've loved them since the day they were born. And I know both of you just had kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dealing with this shit in my head where I'm like, I don't know if I want to fucking be here. And at that time, that was very much what I was dealing with. And the only way I could really find to express my love for my kids was there was a song I wrote. And whether you guys realize it or not, you've heard me play the riff. And
If I heard the riff, I would know.
you would know. And there was a song, and I took the chords from a song that my dad had wrote, and he had taught me when I was very young, and it was very pretty, but I wrote this song and I recorded it on my fucking Steinberg Elements fucking recording software, which was complete garbage. But I recorded this song and I remember fucking crying when I was finishing it up, because I was like, I wish I can play this for my kids and them understand what it fucking means.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't find the words
To tell them.
Mm-hmm. I can't find the words to explain to my wife at the time how I was feeling. Couldn't explain anything that I was dealing with, and I felt so fucking isolated, and I felt so fucking alone. I was literally in the deepest, darkest hole of my life, and it was music that kept me alive. Because like I said, I didn't want to fucking be here.
I relate to that on such a deep level, because when I got on my medication, I was 2.5 years into a relationship with this person, this woman that I had just, we had moved out together. We'd never lived on our own together. I had just graduated college. We got our first place together, and I was miserable. And I felt the same way. I didn't know if I wanted to be here or not. And I couldn't tell her why. And she didn't, she was very understanding. I'm not going to run her through the mud at all, because she was very understanding. She was, helped me get the courage to go to my doctor and say, I need help, because I thought that I was too tough for that, right? Just like all men, we're too tough for that.
Mm-hmm.
She helped me get the courage to go to my doctor and say that I'm not okay. But that medication turned me into a zombie, like you said. I felt nothing. Nothing. No sadness, no anger, no love, no joy, no passion, no nothing. And it cost me that relationship. Now, I'm thankful that it did, because of where I'm at today. I'm very thankful for what I have today, the relationship I have today. I wouldn't have my son if that wouldn't have cost me that relationship. But it cost me a relationship. And I was truly on my own. When she left, I was in a house by myself. I wasn't at home with my parents. I was, working, struggling to pay bills. I remember selling an acoustic guitar I had, selling a TV, selling a PlayStation 4 just to pay rent. I went out and bought a dog because I couldn't stand being alone anymore. And I remember sitting in my house one night, and it was so cold because the house was poorly insulated and it was freezing cold. And all I had in the house was a bag. I went to the grocery store that night, and all I had was a bag of dog food, a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a gallon of milk. Because that's all I could afford.
Right.
And I was never going to ask my parents for help, even though my parents would have written me a check for $20,000 if they had to. But I was never one to ask for help. And I remember sitting in that house, freezing my ass off because I couldn't afford the electric bill if I turned the heat on too high. And I turned on Nutshell.
Fuck.
Because I was ready to put a gun in my mouth, bro. And I'm just being real here. I was done. I had nothing. I felt like I had no one. And I turned on Nutshell. And it spoke to me in a way that it had never had before. And it pulled me right out of that. And I remember telling myself, bro, you can do this. You can do this. You can get through this. You can pay your bills. You can make it out of this hole that you're in. You can pay your bills. It was such a redefining moment in my life, and I remember it so vividly because of how that song, and I know a lot of people, or some people listening, might not understand or relate because they've never been to that, and I hope that no one listening has been in that place. I don't ever want anybody to be in that place, but if you have, maybe you can relate to this, because that song just pulled me right out of it. And I remember going to bed that night, curled up with 6 different blankets because it was so goddamn cold in there, with a smile on my face, because I knew the next day was a Sunday night And I woke up Monday morning and attacked that day like I never attacked a day in my life. Because Nutshell literally saved my life, bro. Because I was done. And I had this it was one thing I didn't sell. I had this kick-ass fucking sound bar it was a Bluetooth.
Couldn't get rid of the
Never
sound
No,
bar,
I
bro.
was never selling the sound bar. I had this kick-ass sound bar that I set in front of my TV, and because I had to sell my bedroom TV, but I kept my living room on, and I kept the sound bar in front of the TV, and I Bluetoothed my phone to that, and I played Nutshell as loud as I fucking could at like 2:30 in the morning on a Sunday night, and I just sat there and closed my eyes in my recliner and just felt every second of that song. And when it was over, I played it again. And the second time that I played it, I immediately got up. I got my dog. We went to bed because old Copper, you remember Copper?
Yes, I do.
Copper used to sleep with me, and I threw him in bed, and he, licked my face, was happy as all get out. I'm like, well, he's awful damn happy, and he's in the same situation I am. I ain't got no damn right to continue to feel like this. And Lane Staley fucking spoke to me in a way that I can't even describe, and I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to attack tomorrow like there's no tomorrow. And I did. And ever since that moment, like, bro, I just lived my life a whole different way. And music literally saved my life, man. So you telling that story, I just related to it on a lot of different levels. It's incredible.
Love you, bro.
I love you, man.
I think those two stories encapsulate everything that we're after in regards to why we created this show.
That's what it's all about, bro.
I don't have much to add on that.
I don't think you could add to that, could you?
No, I don't have much to add, but I mean, there's versions of those stories that I've heard, pieces, but not all. I'm appreciative that you guys were vulnerable enough to tell those, and I hope somebody listening can relate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your situation now where, you're a new dad and you're dealing with, stress at work and you're dealing with so many things going on at once. I mean, you can kind of speak to that. I mean, because you're dealing with a level of stress that you've never really experienced before. And I know...
And you have a receding hairline now.
Yes, I fucking do. That's the number one stressor in my life
Hey,
right now.
he got you back for that shit talk on guitar last
Yes.
It's
season.
running away from you, my guy.
So
And I can't grow a fucking beard yet, so if I go bald, I'm fucked.
So,
We talk about real world problems
Thank
here.
God your wife's pretty and has a good job.
Damn.
So, what are you listening to nowadays when you're feeling kind of overwhelmed or stressed out that's kind of helping you out through some of this shit?
I don't know that I can pinpoint it, to be honest. Probably a lot of the shit that I've always listened to. But every now and then, you know how I've always mentioned there's, I don't typically listen to lyrics, right?
Right.
I don't, depending on the genre mainly, but, I don't know that I can pinpoint a specific artist or style of music. But every now and then there's something that'll hit me and it's like, well, I didn't realize it, but this is how I've been feeling as of late. And one example of that would be the new NF album. And I know we've touched on that recently. For some reason, it was on a drive to work that morning, and that new album, it hit me like, I say the phrase often, but hit me like a freight train. And it was
Well, I know there's
holy shit.
I know there's the one song
Is it
that
happy?
I'm sure that you can really relate with, and he's talking about his son being born and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and how shit didn't go according to plan.
Uh-huh.
And he's kind of writing a song for his wife, and I don't remember which song it was, but like I kind of thought of you and your wife in that scenario, because I'm like, Preston's telling me he's really feeling this song, and I know you guys kind of had some of the same shit going on.
Yeah, I don't know that there was that piece of it that really kind of hit me like a rock, but there was just several things that he spoke to on that album that was like, holy shit, maybe I didn't realize that I feel this way every now and then, or feelings that I haven't expressed in a certain amount of time. But it was like once I listened to that album on the way to work that morning, it was like all that poured out of me, and I'm like, holy shit, this is and maybe there's some people out there that maybe listen to a lot of those feelings they tend to block or like do a good job of blocking or not thinking about and or concealing may be the word. And if you're like me, when frustrations build up, you tend to hold them in, and then all at once it just boof. Some people throughout the day, or
it all comes out at once.
Yeah.
I'm the same way, bro. You know I am. It's you would have thought that I would have been better at stress management over time, but if it seems like, you know, things continue to build up, and typically it hits me when I'm alone, and straight up when a particular song comes on, whatever it is, something will just hit me, and I'm like, it's coming out. I know it's coming out. And if it's anger, if it's you know, being sad or whatever, it all comes out at once, and I just let it rip, dude. I let it all out. I mean, it's just.
But it's also a cool feeling when you're by yourself, and you're, whether it's in your car or your headphones or wherever your safe space is that you go to, that another artist or band that does that for you.
Yeah,
it's like. It's you and them, and that's it. There's nobody else. There's nobody else there with you, and I'm extremely thankful for those moments, because we talk about it all the time. But there's a reason we dive into the stuff that we dive into. Yeah. So, no, I don't have much else to add to those points.
Well, I'll be honest with you, folks that are listening. We had a couple new segments planned for this episode. Starting off season 2 with a bang, but I'm gonna skip those for this episode because I want you all to really think about everything that we've said tonight, all the stories we've told, and really try to relate that to your own life and find some inner peace and find some relatable topics that we've discussed, and draw that back to your own experiences in your own life. So, first off, I want to thank Shawn again for coming on and telling some awesome stories and giving a little insight to his musical journey. And also want to thank all of you who have stuck with us from season 1 into season 2, and any new listeners we have, listening to this episode. Thank you so much for giving us a shot, and we hope that we've been able to speak to you on a very deep level.
We didn't know that that's where we were going this episode.
No, we had no clue. Had no clue. And that's what's beautiful about it. And just so you guys know, this season 2, as we're calling it, is off to an incredible start. And we knew it would be, but I don't know that we'd ever dreamed that it would have been this good. So we do have some awesome new segments that we're going to have in this season. Some we're going to do some top 5s in each episode. We're also going to include a new topic called This or That, and you guys will get some of that on the next show. But I think I want to let this one marinate, boys. Y'all cool with that?
I'm cool with some marination.
I'm cool with some marination too. So,
give me the meat.
Once again, welcome to season 2 of the Screaming Idiots Show, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, we are the Screaming Idiots, and we'll see you next week.
Peace, love, dove.